Welcome to Pizza Talk. I'm Peter Reinhardt with our Pizza Yodis, Brian Spangler, John Arena, and friends. We've got Brian's right-hand man, Andres, who's going to be a big part of today's episode. Today, we're doing Dueling Calzones, and we're going to have both Brian and John kind of take us through a process of two different ways of doing calzones. We'll let them explain what those differences are. But let me just ask this to get the ball rolling. Brian, why are we doing calzones? It was really you and John came up with this idea of calzones. Why calzones?
I pitched the idea to John, and it's something that I think that it's really an underappreciated form of pizza. It's basically a pizza folded in on itself, and a lot of people don't appreciate calzones, and I don't think it's as popular as it should be, because it seems to have been basically like a stuffed, like, I don't know, pizza pocket in a lot of places. I can't tell you like how many places I've been to where you choose 5 ingredients to shove inside a piece of pizza dough, but ricotta is not one of them, and it's just overcomplicated.
So it's gotten away from the original version and intent and has become a commodified pizza pocket item.
Yeah. And I turned Andres onto Calzones, and, the simplicity of it, it's really, I think it's just like, just take it back to the basics. And it should, the reason why, going back is like, I think the reason why it's not so popular is because a lot of people aren't doing it right. They're making it too fussy. Like, just keep it, don't muss, don't fuss, keep the basics, it has to have ricotta. I'm not Italian, so you guys tell me if I'm
You're giving us the Pacific Northwest pronunciation.
Is it ricotta?
Ricotta.
Yeah, ricotta. Okay. I'm German. So.
I know. For me, I'm German too. It's kind of ricotta sounds easy to say for me.
Right. But it was in Philadelphia when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I had just a classic Neapolitan calzone, and I fell in love. And I loved like stuffed shells, manicotti, all in my wheelhouse. And then I remember going to other places on the West Coast when my father got a job in San Jose, and I'm like, oh, calzone. And when I got it, I was like, oh,
yeah, right, what's that? Yeah.
So we're going to do a classic Neapolitan calzone, which I think is like the best starting point. We're going to do one with sliced or julienne. Today we're using calabrese. You can use like soppressata. That's the classic with the ricotta and the cheese and basil and sauce on top, not inside, sauce on top.
Uh-huh.
And which helps it from the browning process.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do one just because we're gonna do a vegetarian version without having the calabrese, or you can use soppressata or another
Absolutely.
Yeah. Since we're not gonna have that salt point, we're gonna put in some olives, some like Niçoise olives, to bring that salt in there to kind of like elevate the flavor.
Right. And then John, before these guys are going to get started, they're going to do theirs first. But before they do, what is it about calzones that you love?
I love the texture. I love the way the flavors combine inside the heat of the pocket that's formed. And I love the history. So we'll talk about that a little bit also.
We're going to definitely get into the history after we see them in front of us. Then we'd love for you guys to fill us in and kind of flesh out the whole story of calzones and its relationship to.
I'd love to know about the history because I don't know.
Yeah, the pizza. It's really a part of the pizza family of products, and it's got its own following, but it hasn't. It kind of was very big for a while in the United States, but it's lost its, as you said, its luster. So maybe today you guys can help bring it back. And I know, Brian, you're doing this as a passion project because you don't even make and serve calzones at your restaurant, right? At Pizza Shows.
We don't, but I've been talking to my main man here, Andres, about doing this in production, and he says go. So it looks like we're gonna go.
Well, Andres, you're from Mexico originally. Is there a product in Mexico that's comparable to a calzone?
Empanada?
Nothing. So, and then, that's what I'm thinking. Empanadas, yeah, it's kind of a play off of that. But of course, every culture has their own version of pizza and folded doughs and flatbreads and everything else. So they have different names. And I always think pizza is just this big umbrella term now has become that. So so this would be kind of cool to see you take it on and possibly carry it into the restaurant in the future. John, do you serve calzones at Metro?
Lots of them.
Lots of them. So that's a big part of your menu. All right. Well, with that said, let's get into the making. And then while we're making, we'll learn more about the whole history. You're going to start us off with a traditional, bring us back to the roots, to a traditional calzone as you understand it.
All right. So for me, you know me, cheese pizza is everything. And
I love this walk that we have when you're walking to the kitchen. We call it the perp walk, you know. you go to the kitchen.
Gives a kind of a Martin Scorsese feel.
Exactly. We got to get some really good pounding music in the background, you know.
Another great guy. This is Giovanni.
Hey, Giovanni. How are you?
Same town in the Yucatan, Tecash.
Fantastic.
He's an amazing boy.
Well, thanks for being part of this.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch out the dough first, and then Andres is gonna run the cam. You can see our picture here. And then I'm gonna switch over. We're gonna do a tag team. They're in. I'm gonna do a tag team where I'm going to then film him while he's finishing out the calzones, painting them, and everything you're explaining.
Beautiful. All right, let's go for it.
So we're using a basic 260, 280 gram dough ball here.
Same doughs for your pizza.
Same dough.
Huh?
I mean, if I were going to do like a wood-fired oven, I might do something a little bit maybe softer, like Puto type flour.
So basically, you've got about a 10-ounce dough ball, for those of us who still think in ounces. I couldn't quite hear that last thing you said.
I can't do the math this early in the morning.
I know, but 280 is easy for me because I just think 28, divided into 280 is 10.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah,
if you had said 296 grams, I wouldn't have been able to do the math.
It's 260.
Oh, 260. So maybe we're at 9, closer to 9 ounces of dough.
So we're gonna, basically, what do we use for a 12-inch pizza? Nothing too big.
Yeah.
You guys see this one?
Andres, can you tip that camera? There we go. Yeah, we got the dough in there.
Yeah, the main screen is on you. It's not on me right now. So Andres is he's looking at a tiny little square in the corner.
And you're on a big square on my screen, so I think,
oh, okay.
Yeah, the viewers are seeing you, not me. So basically, it looks like you're making a pizza.
Oh, yeah. Well, calzones is just a folded in, taco.
Right. So the first stage is pretty standard, and then it's maybe where things go off the rails is the assembly of the innards.
Keeping your fingers away from the edge. You don't want to.
I've been getting a lot of emails from people from home bakers who ask for more instruction on the shaping of the pizza dough. So the way you're shaping this now for the calzone, is that the same way you do your pizzas?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so and again,
I don't ever touch, around the edge. I don't ever touch that.
Yeah.
Like, the more you beat it down, you're basically getting the. You want it to be relaxed so it can puff up.
We already had in previous episodes, we had both you and John doing some dough shaping demos for everybody. So we want to mention those who are just joining us for the first time. If you want to see more on the dough shaping, go back to some of the other Yodi, the Pizza Yodi episodes, because they've been, in addition to some great talk, they've been doing some terrific instructional work.
You guys see that?
That looks great.
That was perfect right now. These are going to be some good calzones. So I'm going to take over the controls here. And Andres is going to build.
Okay.
So now we get to the point where we're going to, like, you know, the traditionally calzone is with ricotta, and also, I think fior di latte, fresh mozzarella. We actually prefer using aged mozzarella, whole milk mozzarella.
Okay.
I like the flavor profile of it. So we're going to put some ricotta that's smeared on.
Is that just straight ricotta, or is it been added any cream or milk to it, or is it straight ricotta?
We use a Chicago style ricotta. It's a little bit drier, but what we'll do is we'll take some of the brine from our fresh mozzarella, and we'll use that to kind of thin it out a little bit.
Okay, great.
And now he's putting on some julienne calabrese. And then we're going to put on some fresh ground black pepper. And then some basil leaves.
Uh-huh.
You can never have enough basil with pizza, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And then we're going to put on some a little bit more aged mozzarella.
So you've got sliced mozzarella down on the base, then some shredded mozzarella going over the top.
Right. And then we're going to put a little bit of pecorino romano on top.
Because that always makes everything taste better.
Oh, yeah. Then all we do is fold it over.
Okay.
Pinch it down. The next step is to just simply pinch it open to get the steam out of it to the center.
Like a menthol.
We spread tomato sauce on the top.
Okay, so you bake it with the tomato sauce on the top. You don't put it on.
It helps it from over browning. And then to keep elevating this, we're going to put some more ricotta on top.
So now you got a pizza on top and a calzone in the center.
Pretty much.
Layered.
And then, some basil leaves. And then a little bit more of peas. Then a little sprinkling of extra virgin olive oil.
Wow. This really is a layered.
How's my camera work doing?
This is really a layered calzone. It's more expanded than I was thinking. I never see them like this.
Oh, really?
No. It's been a while.
This is why I don't think that calzones are very popular in the United States. When you do it this way, it's so simple. So now he's gonna do another one.
Okay.
We're gonna do one that's vegetarian.
Okay.
And instead of using the calabrese, we're gonna use some Mitzvah olives to replace the salt that we're not getting from the calabrese. So, this day and age, you always have to have a vegetarian version. And I don't even need to have, you don't even add olives. You could just put a little pinch of sea salt in there. It doesn't, cheese pizza is my favorite thing.
John, while you're watching this,
let's make sure I'm doing the good camera work for everybody here.
It's looking good. Yeah, you got a good angle on it. John, I know you're going to show us your technique later on for a fried calzone, but as far as this methodology, how close is this in technique to what you do at Metro?
It's close and objective, but the technique is a little different, and I'll explain as I'm assembling what my rationale is.
Okay, good. So that means
in other words, I'm gonna just make stuff up as I go.
We're gonna riff. But so stay with us because you're getting Brian's classic calzone, and we're going to get John's also classic, but with a few John tweaks to it.
Well, you'll have to determine for yourself who's tweaking and who's not, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because let's face it, everything that came over from the United States, if it started in Italy, it's already got tweaked on the way over, and it got tweaked again when it moved to different pizzerias.
And it gets tweaked every morning when I wake up, depending on how I feel about what I'm doing.
As it should be. So you've already cut that vent hole before you put the sauce on, obviously.
Right.
And then
first thing you do is you just open up the center so the steam can escape, and then we just put it. Again,
so really the only difference between these two is you substituted out something like olives in place of the meat.
Correct, because the meat they both have the salt, and if you didn't want to introduce either one, a little pinch of like kosher or sea salt or something just to elevate the flavor.
Bring out some more salty, yeah.
And then a little.
Now you mentioned earlier that you were concerned with some of the newer sort of pizza pocket style version. That there's just so much stuff that people think anything goes in there. Are there things in here that you would say shouldn't be part of a traditional calzone? Is seafood acceptable? Is chicken acceptable?
I think like you're whatever it is you want. But keep it basic. Like like I think John and I have an agreement where when you have good ingredients, don't fuck around too much. Just make it simple. Let the ingredients speak. So I'm gonna have Andres hold the computer now.
Okay.
So which one is this? Is this the meat one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna kind of pull it in. On stuff like that. Make a little kind of U shape. It's gonna move good. So this is the vegetarian one with the olives.
So is that just decorative in your case, or is it is there a functionality to that little?
There's no functionality. I just like the look.
Gives it kind of a.
It kind of as you shift it out. I pull it back, and then as you shift it out, it kind of goes back in on itself.
Yeah.
But I like the moon. I like the kind of like quarter moon shape. I think that's.
Yeah, it's very much like a Luna crescent.
Right. It's about presentation. Because first thing people do is eat with their eyes.
Yeah.
So if you can make it look sexy, that's on. So we're gonna load them up. I'm gonna let you go.
Baking them at what, about 600?
We're baking these at about 610, but the hearth is about 650 degrees.
Uh-huh.
Blue.
Right. Yeah, so we can see them in there. About how long do they take to bake, Brian?
These are going to take about 5-6 minutes.
Okay. Well, then, while they're baking, let's talk a little bit about some of the sort of your inspiration for these. You mentioned Philadelphia and East Coast places where you fell in love with calzone.
Well, I fell in love, and then I fell out of love.
Right.
When I think it was in Philadelphia, when I had like a true classic Neapolitan calzone. And as I said before, I love anything. When you have ricotta, I'm in.
Yeah.
But when I moved to the West Coast, everything was like ricotta wasn't even included in the ingredients, and it was just like they wanted to just like stuff it with pepperoni and sausage and mushroom and onion and olives and all this other stuff. And it just I kind of fell in love with it. But then once I started the pizzeria, I kind of wanted to go back to that first memory that I had, the gold standard. And that's when I started doing research, and I was like, oh, It was a classic Neapolitan calzone.
So,
the one
so
that's
when you say that the research part kind of took you back overseas to Naples,
it
so
reminded me exactly what it was that I'd fallen in love with in the first place.
so you were inspired by an American version of a Neapolitan calzone, and John, and between the two of you, you've both done a lot of research on this. Does that bear right? Is that like in Naples? Would you say the traditional calzone always has a ricotta cheese as part of the base?
It's probably changed over years, but when I was growing up in New York as a kid, it always had ricotta. You know, pizza calzone it's evolving in Naples as well. So we can't look at Naples today and say this is traditional because
Really?
we don't really know what they were doing 100 years ago.
Interesting. Yeah.
We know one thing for sure, they were keeping it simple.
Yeah.
So Andres is going to rotate right now, not to interrupt you guys. We have a little semolina that we use underneath everything so it doesn't stick to the peel. So he's going to also brush out. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, this is good because it's going to take a few more minutes to
look at
finish
the
up.
corner. And
So while it's continuing to bake, we'll keep vamping. We'll talk about some more of this history.
Semolina that we used underneath the peel, on the top of the peel, so that the calzones didn't stick to the peel during the process.
So that's something that you got to deal with, is constantly cleaning out the burnt.
Good image. You guys see this? Because I can't.
That expansion, yeah.
Tiny corner. You guys see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
The one on the left is really popping. It looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this is where I should probably, pull out a bubble popper. Or hold on this.
Oh, you're breaking those bubbles, huh?
I don't want it to get burnt.
Right.
Because when you don't have mass, that's where the crust will start getting burnt because there's no mass behind it to protect it. So,
right.
A couple pokes. Looking good.
Yeah, that's looking good. John, as we're going to come back in segment 2 with your version, and I know you're going to be doing a deep fried calzone, correct?
Right.
So I want to make sure you guys all come back for that. But any comments on what you've seen so far in Brian and Andres' version of these calzones?
For me,
yeah,
it's a beautiful layered calzone. It's a little more complex than typically what I do. But Brian's a much more sophisticated guy than I am, so I'm going to keep it real simple. I do a couple of things differently, and I'll explain them as we go because it'll be easy to illustrate.
What do you guys think while we're waiting for these to come out? Do you think that there's any chance of a sort of a calzone renaissance in America? Like, for instance, will we start to see calzones being in the pizza competitions?
I hope so.
For that?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think so because when the Detroit style kind of blows up, what's after Detroit? There's going to be something. I think Stromboli's going to come back. I think calzones are going to come back. And calzones are great picnic food. Take one out, cut it up and take it out to a park. It's the same thing with Stromboli's.
So it's a good cold. They don't have to be right out of the oven.
I think these guys are done.
All right, let's pull them.
The first one's the meat one. Get out of his way. Here comes the veggie one.
Now, basically, the only difference is on the inside. How would you, if you're cranking out a bunch of these in a restaurant, how would you differentiate? Would you put something?
Here we go. How's that look?
They look awesome. How long do you wait before you cut them?
We'll let them sit here for a couple minutes, and then we'll let them set up a little bit just to get the steam, because there's the moisture in the ricotta inside. You want that to kind of set it up a little bit. And then we'll put them onto the perfect crust pizza liners.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yes, I just did, and I guess you did too. We just did a webinar for those with those guys with the perfect crust of the liners,
Yeah.
which are helping to keep the pieces from.
Oh, is that a better good view? You guys see these?
Yeah, that's a great view.
Awesome.
So yeah, they really look good.
Yeah, let them just set up a little bit, and then we'll give them 2 minutes and then cut them into quarters.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break right here while that's cooling? We'll reset. We're going to come back in segment 2 with a tasting of your calzones. Pardon me? Oh yeah, we got the team.
Props to my employees who I fucking love.
Yeah, these are your guys.
We're all a team.
I really appreciate that.
It's not about me; it's about everybody.
Congratulations, and I know you guys have been working
Yodi
really
and
hard.
are two of the best employees I've ever had in my entire life. So, let me give them a love.
Thank you for coming in so early. I know we're right now for you guys. It's pretty early in the morning, so we really appreciate how early you got started to make this possible. Let's take a break right now. While those are cooling, we're going to come back in segment 2 with a tasting of these traditional calzones, and then we're going to jump over to Las Vegas where John Arena is going to take us into a deep fried variation of calzone.
Perfect.
All right. We'll see you all in a few minutes. Back on Pizza Talk. Well, welcome back to another segment of Pizza Talk. This is part 2 of our calzone throwdown. Brian Spangler, John Arena, and the guys. Thanks a lot for doing this. Brian, your calzone came out of the oven before with the break. I think before it cools off, let's cut it open and see what it looks like inside.
Get in there.
Oh, you're making the perp walk again.
Yeah, you love it.
Nice view of the restaurant as we go through.
I love my restaurant. It's kind of I spend more time here than in my house.
Now that you're in the pivot mode, what are you doing with all those tables? Do you use them for anything?
When people, the nice thing about those booths is they're the backs of them are 6 feet tall and they're 6 feet on center. So if somebody's in here waiting for their pizza, they come a little early. We can have them sit in the booth, be safe, and then we'll sanitize the whole thing down after they leave.
All right. So there's a little bit of
it's kind of a waiting area. We have 1,400 square feet of waiting area, and we only allow about 4 or 5 people in the building at a time. So it works out really well.
Okay.
All right, Andres, he wants to cut up the calzone. I'm gonna set the pizza.
Right. Yeah. Here we go. Let's get that camera on it. So we're gonna. So really, you're cutting it just like a pizza into wedges, huh?
That's the way I like to do it. I mean, you can do it some people like to do little strips.
I suppose if you're doing it like on a picnic, like you were talking about earlier, you just handhold the whole thing and just eat like a burrito. All right, see if you can get it right into the camera with the open end, with the cut end facing. There we go. A little bit more to the left.
I'm trying.
All right, so
that
we can see that cheese is really melted down.
Yep.
What's it?
Sorry.
The pocket itself, the dough pocket itself, just looks awesome, just with or without anything inside. And then the cheese is just kind of like a little luscious. There we go. Nice.
Yeah.
So basically, you've created, in a sense, a stuffed pizza or a 2-layered pizza. And what's it like? Take a bite of that thing and let us know what the textures and everything are like.
I'm going to have Andres go ahead and jump on in. We got a delivery showing up right now, so I got to have Giovanni go deal with that.
Which is probably also means a good time for us to jump over to Vegas for Jonathan. Wow. What do you think? Andres? Loving it? Ready to start bringing it on the menu?
I don't think it ever happened. You ever had a calzone before here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't good, was it?
No, it didn't.
No.
Maybe it's quite spicy.
It does look pretty awesome. Yeah. And like you said, it's not overly loaded, but it's got all the flavors that you want. And I love the idea of putting cheese and sauce on top as well as inside. But essentially, made a 2-layered pizza.
Exactly.
So you're getting lots of different flavors and textures with each bite. All right. Well, thank you for putting all that together, and maybe keep a slice or two for us to return to later, just for recap. But John, why don't you take it from here, and Brian and I will start throwing questions your way as you take us through your process.
Okay, first of all, I want to make sure that we don't think of this as a calzone throwdown.
No comment.
Because when the Germans and the Italians throw down, it's usually not good for the Italians. So I'm not gonna.
Stuff gets weird.
Let's think of it as a calzone alliance.
All right.
If that works a little better for me.
It was weird. I was doing this interview with Perfect Crust Pizza Liners, and he was like, "Okay," he kept bringing up WWF, and I don't know why.
That's right. Did they ask you what your wrestling name would be?
No, they asked me who my favorite WWF wrestler was, and I was never big into that. But I remember Junkyard Dog, and I thought he was the coolest of cool. He was like Isaac Hayes in the ring, and that was pretty dope. But then they were asking me like, "Okay, steel cage match."
I know those guys are totally into professional wrestling, and I was big time as a kid. So I had some old timers like Bruno Sammartino that I threw.
That would be my guy.
Yeah.
Bruno.
But he was like,
Bobo Brazil.
Steel cage match. Is it going to be John Arena or Paulie G? And I didn't really understand it.
All right. Well, today we've got
Paulie G took offense because I didn't pick him.
You didn't play, yeah. well, today.
Let's just say Paulie G is better at everything than everybody. So we're
Of course.
Right. The current U.S. reigning champ.
He's a classic New Yorker. He doesn't like to hear 2 words he can't say himself.
All right, John. We got to get you going before we go down the rabbit hole of professional wrestling here.
Okay. So usually when I'm thinking about Italian food and about the history of Italian food, the easiest way to kind of get to the heart of it is to understand the word, because the Italian language is very descriptive. So can we ask you, Brian? Can we ask your teammates what the word calzone means in Spanish?
Oh, they don't have a word for it.
What the word calzone, they use the word calzone to mean something else. So can you ask them what it means?
Okay, well, hold on. I know what.
Hold on. While you're tracking them down, John, keep talking. Tell us a little bit about
restaurant again. I know what calzone.
So what Brian is going to find is that the word calzone in Spanish means underwear.
What does it mean in Italian?
Well, we know that Naples at one time was part of the Spanish Empire.
So
there are a lot.
In español, the palabra calzone is
Empanada.
No.
Calzone,
What does the word mean in Spanish?
What is the translation?
underwear.
Underwear. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the 16th century, when Spain ruled Naples, calzone meant a pair of pantaloons.
Oh.
Okay. The big puffy pants.
Ah.
So when I think of a calzone, I think of something that's puffy, that puffs up.
There you go.
It's a descriptive title.
Yeah.
And so for me, a calzone is never vented. You actually want the steam to build up and the dough to expand to get the textural component.
So you get a whole different product when you have
you shape it. Right. When you shape, whether I'm frying it or baking it, when I'm shaping it, I get as much air out of it as possible, but there's still going to be some air and steam in there. And that expansion of that steam that causes the dough to stretch changes the texture. Gives it more lightness. So right at the heart of it, if we look at the heart of the calzone in its original form, we have to look at what the word means. So there's always a clue in the Italian language if you look at the name,
the derivation,
what the product originally was.
And that air gives it the crispier element as well.
Exactly.
And the look of a pantaloons.
Right.
Right. The look of the. Of
Well, you were right, John.
The
What would ever
puffy
doubt
pants. Yeah, we got to get some puffy pants on. We got to get some pantaloons, and some
Right.
calzone pants.
Right.
All right. So
All right, I'm gonna get out of this room. 'Cause
Okay, so-
deliveries are coming in. I gotta get out of there.
Okay.
so that makes sense. Then when you don't vent it, then you're going to get a much more puffier product.
Right.
But then I would think if you're going to fry it, you would never vent it if you were going to fry
You
it.
have to vent it. You have to not vent it if you're frying it.
Yeah.
Because we let the oil inside, of course. So
Okay.
I'm going to start with the real basics. For the people that are not professional pizza makers, as Brian said, the rules of pizza of extending a dough remain pretty constant. Which means, first of all, you don't take the dough out of the tray without a dough scraper. You don't try to lift it out, and it's especially important with the calzone, which it will weaken the structure if you try to take the dough out, peel the dough out of a tray without using the proper tools. So I've already done that. I'm going to turn the camera. So can you kind of see my work area a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, I can see right at the bottom of the screen a little floured area. Yep.
Okay.
Can you tilt it a little bit more so that the dough is more in the center of the screen?
Yeah, tilt it down a little bit.
The other way. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, better. Much better. All right, there we go.
So my feeling about the calzone is that I do not put a cornicione on it at all. So I'm not stretching it like a pizza. I'm actually flattening the edge.
Flatten all the way around. Okay.
I want that thinness on the edge because I'm going to fold it over. So if I leave the edge thick, when I fold it, I'm doubling it, and then when it puffs up, it's going to be too dense.
Got it.
So I'm
So
gonna work
the folding itself kind of creates a cornicione.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work it more on the table because I want it to be pretty even. Some people use a rolling pin. You know how I feel about rolling pins.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? How that's a controversial area, and we'll have to have a whole show on rolling pin technique because
God gave us rolling pins.
there you
We got
go.
our own rolling pins right here.
By the way, I love that T-shirt. Let's get a good shot of that
Thank you. This is from Steph Mantis.
Pepperoni, onion, sauces, mushroom, and cheese. That is. There's basically a calzone waiting to happen.
So I'm extending the dough. I lay it down. I'm going to start with, as Brian said, we agree on this completely. Ricotta belongs in a calzone.
How big a piece of dough, John, do you use?
Pardon me?
How big a piece of dough is that? What's the weight?
This is about 200 grams.
So a little smaller than what Brian was making.
A little smaller, yeah.
Okay. So you're just going with straight ricotta, no diluting it with juice or water or anything else.
Straight ricotta, but I'm gonna play with it a little bit. I'm gonna tweak it a little.
Okay.
Ricotta. My ricotta not very salty, so I'm gonna put
John, can you speak more to the camera because we're losing some of your voice?
I'm gonna put some kosher salt in there.
Okay.
A little bit of fresh mozzarella.
Fresh mozzarella.
When I was growing up, calzones always had either ham or prosciutto cotto, which I'm going to dice, or a 1/4 inch dice. But I'm not making a ham sandwich, so it's just a little bit, enough for flavor.
Just the essence of ham.
A little bit of parsley, fresh parsley.
Nice. I love parsley.
Always fresh black pepper.
Yep.
Pecorino.
Interesting. So in your case, rather than layering it, you're putting it all together and you're going to kind of make a melange of all these ingredients.
Right. And now the important part. I'm not just going to put this in the center of the calzone. I'm going to whip it first.
Uh-huh.
Whip it good.
Which is going to completely change the texture when the calzone cooks.
By whipping it together?
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you were going to bake this calzone instead of frying it, would you still want to whip everything together like that?
Yes.
Okay. So there's two different contrasting techniques that we see today: a layering technique and a whipping melange style.
Now, how I put this in the calzone to close it,
Yeah.
very important. I'm always I make a mental division horizontally.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and there's a reason why I'm doing that. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to put the toppings in. I'm never going to go past that imaginary line.
So one side of the dough receives the topping. The other side you're keeping uncovered. So I imagine that's going to be the side you fold.
Right. And I don't put the toppings here and fold this way. I fold away from myself. I'll show you why. My hands are shaped like what the calzone is going to be shaped like.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay? So if I folded it this way, tried to work like this, I'd be working against myself. If I folded the way I did it, giving about a 1/4 inch difference between the top and the bottom, so it's not completely overlapped.
Is that just water?
Yep, just water.
I've done egg wash before.
Egg wash will shine it up more, huh?
Yeah.
But then in your case, for the egg wash, it'll help seal it as well. But since you're covering yours with sauce and a little cheese and basil, probably the wash gets covered up too.
Yeah, I switched modes when I first started going back to first. I was like,
So you can see as I close it, as I'm closing.
There we go. Yeah, crimping it. And I'm sure since you're frying this, you've got to make sure that it's really crimped tight, that there's no open spots.
That's what I'm trying for.
Yeah.
Oh, the fork. Yeah, there you go.
It's interesting that, in its simplicity, there's extra steps in putting a calzone together than from a pizza. It's actually more work, more labor involved in creating this folded pizza than by just doing an open pizza.
All the other things like the pizza pops and strombolis and pizzas, and that's why you see like the price increase.
Yeah.
Okay, now we talked earlier about tradition. And about this argument about baked being more traditional. In my opinion, an argument can be made for fried calzone to be more traditional.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because it was a street food, and you can't haul an oven out onto the street, but you can build a fire and stick a pot of oil on the street.
Right.
So if you look, one of the oldest pizzerias in Naples that's still operating by the same family is a place, I think it's called La Figliole, which all they make is fried calzones.
John, see if you can move a little bit closer to the calzone so we can see your face, because we're hearing your voice but not seeing you.
So they've been open since 1860, making only one product, fried calzone.
Really? And are they out on the street, or is it a sit-down restaurant, or what?
They have a couple of tables, but for most people, it's a street food. It doesn't have sauce on it. It's not cut. Now, when I was growing up as a kid, I never saw a baked calzone until I moved out to the West Coast.
Interesting.
Late 50s, early 60s, every calzone that I ever ate was fried.
So even here in the United States on the East Coast, calzones were a fried product primarily.
Yes.
Interesting.
Now, we didn't have deep fryers because then you'd have to have an extinguisher system and a piece of equipment. So just had a stove with a pot of oil on it.
Right.
Was it? Oh, but it was still immersed. It wasn't just a pan fry. It was a deep fry.
So it's still immersed. And I'm gonna move the camera and take this over to the fryer now.
Okay,
Can you see the fryer behind me?
we can. Can you turn a little bit? So you put it in already?
I put it in, and now
Okay.
I have to tend to it. So I'm gonna
Okay.
be spooning oil over the top.
John, can you stand to the side so we can see your hand in, over the oil? Yeah, there we go. So because it immediately floated to the top, so you've got to keep putting the hot oil over the top to keep cooking it. You don't flip it during the bake. You keep it always one direction. Can't hear us. So once again, more work. You put a pizza in the oven and you can kind of walk away. You can't. You got to stay with this guy.
Done by now,
But of course,
It's about appreciation, the love.
Yeah.
Thing that's different. Like,
and also
there are things that are worth putting the time. Like, yeah, there's what I call lost leaders.
yeah.
There are things that are going to take more time. They're not going to be as profitable, and they may not be something for the masses. But you're going to find your audience, and they're going to appreciate it. And
Yeah, and it's a specialty item that draws people in. It's something that might be unique to you.
Yeah. Andres is all down. I mean, he never liked calzones until I started showing him how to, like, here's how I want to do it. And now he's just like obsessed with calzones.
So now you're gonna have to find a way to squeeze it into your already packed menu here.
Yeah. Do you want to make these? Let's do it. I'm like, we might sell like 10 a night, maybe or whatever. But those are the people that really enjoy it and appreciate it.
I would guess that at the beginning, when the word gets out that you're doing it, be prepared for more than 10. Because people will want it. They may not always keep coming back for it, but they're going to want it to at least try it at one point.
For sure. But we're gonna, like, as we discussed, it's because of the amount of the extra time and everything. Let's keep it basic. Like, we're gonna only have like one veggie version. It's not gonna be like a free for all where
You're not going to build them to order or things like that. Yeah. Hey,
good.
John, can you hear us from where you are?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Where are you at? Like, how far in the process is it? Because we can't see the fryer from here.
I've got about 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. So keep them going. And the whole time you're ladling oil over the top. You're not flipping it, right? Looks like he's not flipping it. Do you have to flip that at any point to get the top in the oil?
I did flip it once already, and I'm now going to flip it back.
So you do a flip even with the oil. So really, it's like making a donut.
Where's Chris Decker?
Yeah, is Chris there today?
It's important to consider your dough when you're doing this, because my dough has malted barley in it. I have to keep my fryer temperature a little lower because I'm at about 350. If you're using 00 flour that doesn't have sugar in it or malted barley, you might want to go a little higher.
I see. Interesting. Yeah.
I would have thought like
your ingredients. It's funny. You got to know your ingredients. Like you said, Italian flour, make a 00 would not have the malted barley in it, so it's going to brown up in a totally different way.
That's where you get all that beautiful leopard spotting from the 00 flour.
Yeah, as a result, yeah, because it kind of skips by the caramel phase and it goes right to the char phase.
Yep. I love it.
Well,
I need a little more texture with my pizza. It's personal preference. But,
but I think that's what's so cool about pizzas is we're seeing so many different ways to do it, iterations, and within each style there's its own little. There's rules, so to speak, rules with maybe a small r, and then but then within that, there's still room for lots of variation and innovation.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. It's, as I was talking with Perfect Crust Pizza Liners on my interview on Wednesday, like I don't go into any place with a preconceived notion of what it is. Like there's no expectation. Show me what you do, and if you're doing it classic Neapolitan, neo-Neapolitan, Detroit, Chicago t-shirt, I don't care. Like, wow, man, like bring on. Like let's have some fun, and preferably that people break tradition and keep evolving and doing things their own way. Because as I was saying earlier, when I first started making calzones here at Pizza, I was putting egg wash on it to make it all shiny, and then putting seeds like sesame seeds on top.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went back to the basics and research went into the classic Neapolitan style.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably evolve on that, but
I find that a lot of times something gets called a sort of traditional way or the right way to do it because somebody who did a very good version of it did something to it, and then all of a sudden it became a rule and a law, and everyone said, "Oh, he put sesame seeds on it, so you must have sesame seeds on it."
Right, and people just follow suit. They're like, "Oh, people really like that," so everybody's like,
see, it's out of. I think John's is out of the oil now. John, looks like you're out of the calzone's out of the oil. Can you turn the camera a little bit so we can see it? There we. Oh my God! Look at that thing. It really did. There's your pantalone. It's puffed up, gorgeous. Wow, that is pretty spectacular. And then, how long do you wait before you cut it open?
Typically, I wouldn't serve this cut open.
I would serve it whole.
I would wrap it in, it's a street food, so you would wrap it in paper and hand it to the customer, and they walk away and eat it.
But of course, we can't eat it through the screen, but you can. But we got to see what it's like inside. What do you put doing on top of it now?
Pecorino.
Oh, you do that right when it comes out of the oil?
Right, and while it's still hot, so it kind of melts a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Love it.
I'd love to have a calzone cart in my town that you just walk up to and get a walk-away calzone like that. Holy cow!
It'd be rad.
The Board of Health would go crazy, watching your oil, system.
Can you see it?
We can, yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So hopefully, if we did everything right.
Here we go.
Oh man.
Moment of truth. Say something, John, so that your picture comes on the screen.
Okay. So we can see everything is melted inside.
Yeah. It's kind of like a molten ooze in there.
Right. I want it to be molten. I want it to be soft and textural. That fresh mozzarella we put in there is going to have a little stringiness, a little cheese pull.
Right.
John, do you think that this fried calzone method is also kind of behind the fried pizza, like the Don Antonio's sort of?
Sure, they're inspired by the same thing. The Montanaro, basically, especially the way Brian does it, his calzone is almost like a Montanaro, except it's not fried. The way he's layering it.
Right.
So it's the same idea. As always, Brian and I are headed to the same place. We're just taking a little different road to get there.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I want to thank both of you guys. We got Junkyard Dog versus Bruno Sammartino on the calzone not throwdown. But it's been great. It's a great lesson for us, kind of a history lesson, a technique lesson. For those who have never had a fried calzone, you get to see it here now, and we'll probably have to find somebody who's making it or make it yourself. And I know that a lot of our viewers are also pizzeria operators, so maybe if any of you guys who are watching are doing one version of a calzone or another, write to me at peter@pizzaquest.com and tell me about your version. Maybe we can, come back in the future and do some more calzone episodes. We want to add, to our repertoire of pizza calzone. We've had a stromboli demo at one point. We just want to be able to show you all the variations of pizza, here on Pizza Talk.
For sure.
Yeah. So guys, again, thank you very much for
Always great
great
to work
session.
with you.
Loving it. And great. The guys at the Pizza Liners are going to love the shout outs that you gave them. So thank you guys. Because both Brian and I'm not sure, John, if you've done one of their interviews yet, but
I have.
I think we were on the.
I have, and Chris Decker is doing one in a few minutes.
tell Chris before he goes on to make sure he comes up with who he would call, what he would call himself if he was a professional wrestler. They're going to ask him that. I couldn't come up with a name right away, but they gave me a name. But I'm going to call them and tell them I want to change mine to Charlotte Doughboy, and that's going to be my wrestling handle. And
I think Chris should be Hit the Decker.
Hit the Decker. There you go. All right, John Arena at Metro Pizza, Brian Spangler at Pizza Shoals. Thank you to Andres and your team. Guys, the Yodis are back. We'll look forward to having you back again. We'll conjure up another topic for us to kind of dive deep into the next time on Pizza Talk. Thank you all, and thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Love
guys.
you guys.
Peace. Great to see you.
Always a pleasure.